Hey guys, tonight we begin with the brutally honest, deliriously uncomfortable, and thoroughly unromantic world of a single day in medieval Europe. That is right, we're talking about the Middle Ages, the period Hollywood makes look like a Renaissance fair with extra mud and noble sword fights, when in reality it was more like a survival horror game where everyone lost. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know in the comments where you are tuning in from and what time it is for you. It is always fascinating to see who is joining us from around the world. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Welcome to the year 1320. You are a peasant. Not by choice, obviously. Nobody wakes up and decides to pursue a career in rural poverty. You were born into it. And unless you get very lucky, very dead, or very ordained, you'll die in it. But that is tomorrow's problem. Tonight, we're just trying to survive the next 24 hours. Let's be clear about something right from the start. When people romanticize medieval life, they're thinking about castles, knights, and courtly love. You will experience none of these things. What you will experience is cold, hunger, pain, and a level of exhaustion that would make a modern air doctor weep. And that is on a good day. On a bad day, you add plague, war, or the local lord deciding he needs more taxes, which is every day. You wake up, or rather, you regain consciousness because calling what you just experienced sleep is generous. It is roughly 4:30 in the morning. How do you know this? You don't. There are no clocks, no alarm on your phone, not even a rooster because your family ate it last winter when food got scarce. What wakes you is the cold. Not the refreshing morning chill you experience when you've left the window open in your air-conditioned bedroom. This is the kind of cold that makes your bones ache, the kind that seeps into your joints and lives their rent. Free for the next 40 years of your short, miserable life. The first thing you feel is not comfort. It is the scratching. Your blanket, if you can call it that, is a thin piece of wool that hasn't been washed since before you were born. It is not soft. It is not warm. It is scratchy, slightly damp from last night's condensation, and it smells like a combination of sheep, smoke, and something you've decided not to investigate. Under this blanket, you are wearing the same tunic you wore yesterday, and the day before, and the day before that. You'll wear it until it literally falls apart, which, given the quality of medieval thread, might be next Tuesday. Your bed is not a bed. Let's just establish that right now. It is a wooden platform if you are lucky, or more likely just a section of floor covered with straw. The straw was fresh about 4 months ago. Now it is compressed, mouldy, and hosting a vibrant ecosystem of insects that have no respect for personal boundaries. Fleas are the least of your problems. There are also lice, bedbugs, and occasionally a rat that has lost its way. You've learned to sleep through the skittering. It is just part of the ambience, like white noise, except the white noise occasionally bites you. You share this sleeping space with your entire family, and when we say entire, we mean entire. Your parents are 3 feet to your left. Your 4 siblings are piled around you like a very sad, very smelly game of Tetris. Your grandmother is in the corner, snoring loud enough to wake the dead, which is ironic because she sounds approximately dead herself. There is no privacy. Privacy is a concept that won't be invented for another few centuries. Right now, in this moment, you can hear your father's breathing, smell your brother's morning breath, and feel your sister's foot pressing into your ribs. This is intimacy you never asked for and will never escape. The room you are in is not really a room. It is more like an agricultural supply closet that occasionally houses humans. The walls are made of wattle and daub, which is a fancy medieval way of saying mud, straw, and animal dung mixed together and smeared over a wooden frame. When it rains, which it does frequently because you live in medieval England and the weather has a personal vendetta against comfort, the walls leak. Not dramatically. Just enough to keep everything perpetually damp and ensure that mold is your constant companion. The smell is what you might call rustic, if you were being kind, or biohazard, if you were being honest. There are no windows. Well, there is a hole in the wall that functions as a window, but there is no glass, because glass is for rich people and churches. Instead, there is a wooden shutter that you can close to keep out the cold. But then you also keep out all the light and all the air, which means you are choosing between freezing to death or suffocating in the smell of 7 unwashed humans and whatever your neighbour's pig is doing outside. Most nights, you compromise. You leave it slightly open and achieve both cold and smell simultaneously. efficiency. The floor is dirt. Packed dirt, technically, which sounds more intentional than it is. Occasionally, someone throws down fresh rushes to cover it, which helps for about a day before they get ground into the dirt and become part of the general floor sludge. The ceiling is thatched, which is charming in theory and catastrophic in practice. When it rains, it leaks. When it is windy, bits of thatch fall down and land in your hair, your food, your mouth if you are unlucky enough to be yawning. And in the summer, the whole thing becomes a fire hazard that your local lord deeply does not care about. You try to sit up, and immediately every joint in your body protests. You are 24 years old, which in medieval terms makes you middle-aged. Your back hurts, your knees hurt, your shoulders hurt. Things hurt that you didn't even know could hurt. This is what happens when you spend every day doing manual labor that would be illegal in modern times. Your body is basically held together by spite, and the faint hope that tomorrow might be slightly less awful. Spoiler alert, it won't be. As you shift your weight, the straw beneath you makes a crunching sound. Something scurries away. You don't investigate. In medieval life, there are things you want to know and things you absolutely do not want to know. And whatever just ran across your leg falls firmly in the second category. Ignorance isn't just bliss. It is a survival strategy. The air is thick with the smell of smoke. Not the pleasant campfire smoke you experience on a cozy autumn evening. This is the eye-watering, lung-destroying smoke from the fire pit in the centre of the room that has been burning all night, because if it goes out, you'll freeze to death before morning. The fire pit has no chimney, or rather, it has a hole in the roof that functions as a chimney in the same way that the hole in the wall functions as a window, which is to say, barely. Most of the smoke just hangs around in the room, turning the air grey and ensuring that everyone develops a cough by age 5 that they'll keep until they die at 35. Your eyes are watering. They're always watering. Between the smoke, the lack of hygiene, and the general medieval commitment to making everything as uncomfortable as possible, clear eyes are a luxury you haven't experienced since childhood. You blink hard and try to focus on the dim light coming through the shutter gap. It is that pre-dawn grey that tells you morning is coming whether you are ready or not. You are not. Nobody is ever ready for a medieval morning. You can hear the village starting to wake up around you. Somewhere, a cow is mooing mournfully, probably because it is cold and hungry and shares your general opinion about being alive in 1320. A dog barks. Someone's door slams open. You hear the distinctive sound of someone vomiting, which is not an unusual morning sound. Medieval stomachs are constantly upset by the medieval diet, which is basically bread, more bread, and occasionally some vegetables if you are lucky and didn't die of food poisoning. Your father coughs. It is a deep, wet cough that has been getting worse for the past 3 months. Nobody talks about it. What would be the point? It is not like there is a doctor. Well, there is a doctor, but he lives in the town 6 miles away, charges more than your family earns in a year, and his primary treatment for everything is bloodletting, which will definitely make your father worse. So instead, everyone just pretends the cough is normal, and hopes it doesn't turn into whatever killed your uncle last winter. It probably will. You sit up fully now, your head spinning slightly from the combination of smoke inhalation and mild malnutrition. Welcome to medieval mornings, where you wake up dizzy, and it only gets worse from there. Your mother is already moving around. Medieval women don't get the luxury of slowly waking up. She has been up for 20 minutes already, stirring the fire, checking on the porridge that has been sitting in a pot overnight, probably contemplating the endless cycle of work that is her entire existence. She looks tired. She is always tired. She is 38, which makes her elderly by medieval standards, and she looks about 60 by modern ones. Life is not kind to medieval peasant women. Life is not kind to medieval peasants, period, but it is especially brutal to the women who are expected to do all the regular peasant work, plus raise children, manage the household, and somehow not die in childbirth, which kills about 20% of them. Your mother has had 7 children. 3 of them died before their first birthday. She doesn't talk about them. What would be the point? Your siblings are starting to stir. Your brother, who is 15, groans dramatically. He is at that age where he is old enough to work like a full adult, but young enough to still be annoyed about it. Not that complaining will help. In medieval life, you work or you starve. Those are the options. There is no gap year, no time to find yourself. You found yourself the day you were born, and you are a peasant, and that is the entirety of your identity for the rest of your short existence. Your youngest sister is crying. She is 3 years old, which means she is old enough to understand that she is cold and hungry, but not old enough to understand why. Your mother picks her up automatically, bouncing her slightly while simultaneously poking at the fire with her free hand. Medieval multitasking is a survival skill. You have to do 6 things at once, because there are 12 things that need doing, and only 8 waking hours to do them. Wait, no, there are about 16 waking hours, because sleep is for rich people and the dead. You stand up. The floor is freezing against your feet. You have shoes, technically. They're pieces of leather tied around your feet with string. They're not warm, they're not comfortable, they're barely functional. But they're what you have, and they're better than nothing, which is what most of your neighbors have. You'll put them on later when you go outside. Right now, you are trying to preserve body heat by keeping your feet off the frozen dirt floor, which means you are hopping slightly from foot to foot, like a very sad, very medieval flamingo. The smell hits you now that you are fully awake. It is always there, but your nose adjusts while you sleep. And then when you wake up, you get the full sensory experience all over again. It is the smell of unwashed humans, stale food, smoke, animals, and something indefinably organic that you've learned not to question. This is what medieval life smells like. If you could bottle it, you could use it as a weapon. Actually, you kind of do use it as a weapon. Invading armies can smell medieval villages from half a mile away. It is not subtle. Let's talk about hygiene for a moment. Or rather, let's talk about the complete absence of hygiene. You haven't bathed in approximately 4 months. Nobody has bathed in 4 months. Bathing is not a regular activity in medieval times. It is considered dangerous, actually. The prevailing medical theory, such as it exists, suggests that water opens your pores and lets disease in. So bathing is rare. Maybe once or twice a year. Maybe. When bathing does happen, it is not pleasant. There is no soap. Well, there is soap, but it is made from animal, fat, and lye and smells worse than not bathing. So you skip the soap. You just sit in cold water, because heating enough water for a bath requires an enormous amount of firewood and time, and you have neither. You sit in the cold water, shiver, rinse off the top layer of dirt, and get out before you freeze to death. It doesn't actually make you clean, it just makes you wet and cold, after which you put your filthy clothes back on, because those haven't been washed either, and within a day you smell exactly the same as before. So why bother? The result of this no bathing policy is that everyone is covered in a layer of grime. Your skin has a grey tint, not naturally grey. Grey from accumulated dirt and sweat and smoke residue. Your hair is greasy and matted. Combing it would require a comb, which you don't have. And even if you did, the tangles are so severe that combing would just rip your hair out. So you leave it. Your hair forms clumps, dreadlocks, essentially, but not by choice, just by neglect. Your fingernails are black with embedded dirt. The dirt lives under your nails permanently. You can't scrape it out because you need your fingernails for work. And if you damage them trying to clean them, you'll regret it. So the dirt stays. Your hands are permanently stained. Even if you could wash them, which you can't effectively do, the staining is deep enough that it is part of your skin now. Your teeth are in terrible condition. You've lost 2 already. 1 last year and 1 the year before. They just rotted until they fell out. The remaining teeth are brown and yellow. Dental care is not a thing. There are no toothbrushes. No toothpaste. No dentists who can do anything except pull teeth, which hurts so much that most people prefer to just let rotting teeth fall out on their own. You sometimes chew on twigs to try to clean your teeth, but it doesn't really work. It just gives you splinters in your gums. Your breath smells like death. Everyone's breath smells like death. A combination of rotten teeth, poor digestion, and a diet that consists mainly of onions and old grain. You can smell your own breath when you exhale. It is not good. But everyone smells the same, so it is not like you are uniquely disgusting. You are all disgusting together. Medieval solidarity through shared filth. Then there are the parasites. Oh, the parasites. Everyone has lice. Everyone, rich people, poor people, nobles, peasants. Lice are universal. They live in your hair and your clothes, and they bite you constantly. You are itching right now. You are always itching. Lice bites are itchy and annoying, but not dangerous. Just constant. A low-level irritation that never goes away. You've learned to scratch absently while doing other things. Scratching is just part of existing. But lice are just the beginning. You also have fleas. The fleas come from the animals you live with. The chickens that wander in and out of the house. The pig that sleeps in the corner during winter. The rats in the thatch. Fleas jump from them to you. Flea bites are worse than lice bites. They're sharper. more painful. And they can spread disease, not that you know that. You just know that sometimes people get sick after flea infestations, and sometimes they die. But what can you do? You can't get rid of the fleas. They're everywhere. You just live with them. You might also have intestinal worms. Most people do. You get them from contaminated food and water, which is all food and water. Tapeworms, roundworms, pinworms. They live in your intestines and steal nutrients. This is part of why you are always hungry. You are not just feeding yourself, you are feeding the worms. You don't know they're there, exactly. You just know your stomach hurts sometimes, and sometimes you pass something in your stool that doesn't look like it should be there, and you try not to think about it too hard. Ignorance is bliss. Ignorance is survival. Your skin is covered in various problems. Rashes from the filthy clothes, blisters from the work, calluses on top of calluses on top of calluses, cracked skin on your hands and feet that never heals because you can't keep it clean and dry. Sometimes the cracks get infected. Then you have an infected wound on your hand while you are working in fields full of animal shit. The infection usually spreads. Your hand swells up, turns red, hurts like hell. You treat it by washing it with beer, which is the closest thing to antiseptic you have. Sometimes it helps. Sometimes the infection gets worse and you lose the hand. Then you can't work. Then you starve. Then you die. But most of the time, your body fights off the infection, just barely enough to keep you functional. Just barely enough to keep you working. You have scars everywhere from injuries, from infections, from burns because working with open fires in a cramped space means you get burned regularly. Your hands are especially scarred. Your forearms too. Little marks all over from a lifetime of minor disasters. Each scar is a story. The time you grabbed a hot pot handle. The time a tool slipped. The time you fell and cut your leg on a rock. You don't remember all of them. There are too many. They've become part of your landscape. Your body is a map of suffering. And then there is the chronic pain. Not just the tiredness. Actual pain. Your back is the worst. Years of bending over have damaged your spine. There is a spot in your lower back that always hurts. Sharp when you bend. Dull when you stand. It never goes away. You've learned to work around it. You adjust your posture. You move carefully. You try not to think about the fact that this will only get worse as you age. By the time you are 35, if you live that long, you'll be bent like your grandmother, unable to stand fully upright, shuffling around like you are twice your age. Your knees hurt too, from kneeling, from squatting, from standing on uneven ground for hours every day. There is a grinding feeling when you move them, probably cartilage damage, probably arthritis starting. You are 24 and you already have arthritis. This is what medieval labor does to a body. It destroys it systematically, comprehensively. By the time you are middle-aged, you'll be physically wrecked, and there is no treatment, no pain relief, no physical therapy. Just suffering through it until you die. Your hands hurt in a different way. The joints are stiff, especially in the morning and in cold weather. Sometimes they swell up, sometimes they don't want to close properly. Gripping things hurts, but you have to grip things. Tools, baskets, ropes. You grip them anyway. The pain is just feedback, information your body is giving you about damage being done. You acknowledge the information and then ignore it. What else can you do? Stop working, that is not an option. So you work through the pain. Everyone works through the pain. Pain is just part of the baseline experience of being alive. You probably have other problems too. Vision problems. Maybe your eyes are strained from working in dim light, from smoke exposure, from general deterioration. You might need glasses, but glasses won't be widely available for several more centuries. And even then they'll be expensive. So you squint. You work closer to things. You make do. Same with hearing. Yours is probably damaged from living in a loud environment. Constant noise, yelling, tools banging. Animals, your ears are probably ringing slightly all the time. Tinnitus. You don't have a word for it. You just know there is a sound that is always there, like high-pitched humming. And you've learned to tune it out. Your immune system is both stronger and weaker than a modern person's. Stronger because you're exposed to everything constantly. Your body has learned to fight off 1,000 minor infections. You are sick all the time, but you are functional, sick, not dying, sick, just always slightly ill sick. A constant low-level activation of your immune system fighting things off. This means when you do get seriously sick, your body has some experience. But it also means you have no reserves, no cushion. One serious illness, and you are done. Your body's already running at maximum capacity just keeping you functional. It can't handle a major crisis. You've probably had measles, mumps, maybe smallpox if you survived it, which you did since you were still here. Lots of people don't survive smallpox. If you did, you might have scars from it. Pockmarks on your face. That is common. Nobody judges you for it. Half the village has them. Surviving childhood diseases is more luck than anything. You got lucky, so far. This is what being a medieval peasant does to a body. It uses it up. Burns through it like fuel. By the time you are 40, if you make it that far, you'll be physically broken. Bent spine, bad knees, missing teeth, damaged hands, scarred skin, failing eyesight, diminished hearing. You'll be worn out, used up. And then you'll die, and your children will take over the same work, and they'll be destroyed the same way. Generation after generation of bodies being sacrificed to keep the fields producing and the lords living comfortably. You are not a person. You are a biological machine designed to convert food into labor. And when the machine breaks down, it gets discarded and replaced. You think about all this as you stand there in the pre-dawn cold, smelling your own filth, feeling all your various pains and irritations. Your body is 24 years old, but feels like it has been alive for a century. And in a way, it has medieval years are like dog years. Each one counts for more because it is so much harder. You've lived a hard 24 years. Your body shows it. Your face probably looks older than you are. Your hands definitely look older. You are, in many ways, an old person trapped in a young person's body. And it is only going to get worse. Your stomach growls. This is not unusual. Your stomach is always growling because you are always hungry. Not the comfortable I should eat something soon hungry you experience in modern times. This is the I ate dinner last night, but it was just bread, and now my body is consuming itself hungry. Medieval peasants are not starving. Exactly. They're just perpetually on the edge of starving, which is different. It is like the difference between drowning and treading water in the deep end. You are not dying yet, but you are definitely not comfortable, and you could die at any moment if anything goes wrong. You need to pee. This is a problem because there is no bathroom. Bathrooms won't be a common thing for several centuries. Right now, in 1320, your options are limited, and all of them are terrible. You can use the chamber pot, which is a pottery bowl that sits in the corner of the room and collects everyone's nighttime waste. It smells exactly like you think it smells. Or you can go outside, which means putting on your shoes, opening the door, and subjecting yourself to the pre-dawn cold that will immediately make you regret being born. You choose outside. Anything is better than contributing to the chamber pot situation, which is already at critical mass and will need to be emptied soon. A task that will fall to you because you are young and therefore exploitable. You grab your shoes, shove your feet into them, and stumble toward the door. Your father grunts something that might be a greeting or might be a complaint about you making noise. It is hard to tell. Medieval communication is mostly grunts and gestures. Words are for special occasions. The door is not a door in the modern sense. It is a piece of wood on leather hinges that doesn't quite fit the frame. Opening it requires lifting it slightly so it doesn't scrape against the floor, then pushing hard because it is swollen from last week's rain. It makes a horrifying creaking sound that wakes up anyone who was still sleeping, which makes you instantly unpopular. Your brother throws a piece of straw at you. You ignore it. You've got bigger problems. Literally, your bladder is screaming. You step outside and the cold hits you like a physical slap. It is late October, which means it is cold enough to see your breath, but not cold enough for snow yet. That is coming. Everyone knows it is coming. Winter is the medieval boss fight, and everyone's underleveled. The sky is that pale grey that happens just before dawn, light enough to see, but not light enough to call it day. The world is silent, except for the sounds of the village slowly waking up. Somewhere, someone is chopping wood. Someone else is coughing. The cow is still mooing sadly. Life goes on, whether anyone wants it to or not. You walk about 20 feet from the house, find a bush that has been designated the unofficial morning toilet for your family, and do your business. There is no toilet paper. Toilet paper won't exist for centuries. Instead, there are leaves, if you can find them, or just your hand and a general sense of resignation. Medieval hygiene is not hygiene, it is managed filth. You do the best you can, which is not very good, and try not to think about it too hard. As you are standing there, you look around at the village. It is not what you'd call picturesque. There are about 30 houses, all roughly identical to yours, all equally terrible. They're clustered together around a muddy central area that functions as the village square, which is generous terminology for an open space where people throw their garbage and sometimes hold markets. Beyond the houses are the fields, strips of land that belong to the Lord, but are worked by you and everyone else in the village. The fields look brown and sad. Most of the crops have already been harvested, and now the land is just waiting for winter to make everything worse. In the distance, maybe a mile away, you can see the manor house. It is not a castle. Your lord is not that important, but it is made of stone, which means it is warmer than your house, and it has multiple rooms, which means the lord's family enjoys luxuries like privacy and not smelling their own waste all day. You feel a brief flash of resentment, but it is pointless. The social hierarchy is not something you can change. You are born a peasant, you die a peasant. The lord's family is born noble, they die noble. In between, you work their fields and give them most of your food, and they occasionally remember you exist when it is time to collect taxes or conscript soldiers. For a war you don't understand. You finish your business and head back inside. Your fingers are already numb. The cold is not messing around. By the time you push the door open again, causing another round of horrific creaking, your teeth are chattering. Inside the house, it is barely warmer, but at least there is no wind. The fire is still going, putting out more smoke than heat, but it is something. You'll take something over nothing. That is the medieval motto, really. Something is better than nothing, and nothing is what you'll get if you don't work yourself to death first. Your mother has laid out breakfast. Calling it breakfast is optimistic. It is a bowl of pottage, which is a thick grain porridge that has been cooked overnight in a pot hanging over the fire. The base is usually oats or barley, whatever grain is cheapest and most available. Mixed into it are some onions, a few herbs, and if you are very lucky, a tiny piece of bacon or some vegetable that wasn't rotten. Today, you are not lucky. It is just oats, water, and the vague memory of flavour. The pottage is grey. It looks like wet cement. It tastes like wet cement with a hint of smoke, because everything tastes like smoke when you cook over an open fire in a room with no ventilation. You sit down on a wooden bench that is more splinter than bench and wait your turn. There are no individual portions. There is one pot, and everyone eats from it using wooden spoons that are older than you are. Your father eats first because he is the head of the household, then your older brother, then your mother and sisters. This is the order. It never changes. By the time it gets to the younger kids, there is less food, but that is just how it is. Medieval life is not fair. Medieval life is survival, and survival has a hierarchy. The pottage is still hot, which is its only positive quality. You shovel it into your mouth quickly, not because it tastes good, but because it is warm and your body needs calories to survive the day ahead. It is thick and gluey and sticks to the roof of your mouth. You wash it down with small beer, which is what everyone drinks because water is a gamble with your life. Small beer is beer that has been watered down and has a low alcohol content, just enough to kill the bacteria, but not enough to get you drunk. You drink it at every meal. Your 3-year-old sister drinks it. Even the baby, before he died last year, drank it. It is not about enjoyment. It is about not dying of dysentery. Let's talk about food for a moment. Actually, let's talk about the absence of food. Medieval peasant diet is one of the most depressing topics in human history. You are not eating to enjoy. You are eating to not die. And even then, you are not succeeding particularly well. The base of your diet is grain. Oats, barley, rye. Wheat is for rich people. You've maybe tasted wheat bread 3 times in your entire life, and each time it was a revelation. Soft, light, actually pleasant to eat. But that is not your life. Your life is dense. Heavy bread made from mixed grains that are often already starting to spoil. The bread is dark brown, coarse, and hard enough to use as a weapon. You have to tear it with your hands and soak it in beer or pottage to soften it enough to eat. Chewing it dry will break your teeth. Not metaphorically. Literally break them. The bread is baked, maybe once a week, if you are lucky. Your family doesn't have an oven. Individual peasant families don't have ovens. The village has a communal oven, owned by the lord, and you have to pay to use it. You pay in bread. The lord takes a portion of your bread as payment for letting you bake bread. Think about that. You pay bread to make bread. It is a scam, but it is the only scam in town, so you participate. The alternative is eating raw grain, which will kill you slightly faster than eating bread. The bread you make lasts about 3 days before it goes completely hard. After that, it is rock bread. You can't bite into it. You can only crumble it into liquid and eat the resulting sludge. By day 6 or 7, the bread is starting to mould. You cut off the mouldy parts and eat the rest. Wasting food is not an option. If it is not actively poisonous, it is edible. That is the standard. Then there is pottage. If bread is the foundation of medieval diet, pottage is the entire structure. Pottage is everything. It is breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It is a pot that hangs over your fire constantly, and you just keep adding things to it. Grain, water, onions, herbs, scraps of vegetables, occasionally a bone for flavor. It simmers for hours, days. Sometimes you just keep adding to it and eating from it, and adding to it. The pot never fully empties. It is perpetual stew. The bottom layer of your pottage might be a week old. The top layer might be fresh. You eat it all together and try not to think about it. The flavor of pottage ranges from bland to aggressively bad. On a good day, it tastes like grain and onions. On a bad day, it tastes like the ghost of food that died disappointed. You eat it anyway, every day, multiple times a day. For your entire life, you will eat more pottage than any human should have to eat. You will dream about pottage. You will wake up tasting pottage. Pottage is eternal. Vegetables exist. Technically, you have access to onions, which appear in literally every meal. Cabbage, which is cheap and grows easily but tastes like sadness. Turnips, which are somehow worse than cabbage. Peas, if you are lucky. Beans, which give everyone horrific gas but provide protein, so you eat them anyway. The entire village is farting constantly. It is not polite conversation, but it is reality. Everyone's digestive system is in revolt against the medieval diet. Fresh vegetables are a summer luxury. In winter, you are eating stored vegetables from the root cellar. Root cellar is a generous term for a hole in the ground, lined with straw, where you keep vegetables and hope they don't rot before spring. They usually start rotting around January. By March, everything in the root cellar is soft, sprouting, and questionable. You eat it anyway. Soft turnips are better than no turnips. Barely. Meat is rare. Not non-existent, but rare. Most peasants eat meat a few times a month, if that. The meat is usually pork from the family pig that got slaughtered in fall. The pig is precious. It eats scraps and turns them into protein. It is also disgusting. The pig lives in or near your house, wallows in mud and its own filth, and smells like concentrated evil. But when it is slaughtered, it provides ham, bacon, lard, and various other pig products that your family will ration carefully through winter. The meat is heavily salted to preserve it. Heavily is an understatement. It is more salt than meat. You have to soak it in water before cooking to make it edible, and even then it is still salty enough to make your mouth pucker. But it is protein, and protein is valuable, so you eat it and drink extra beer to handle the salt intake. Sometimes there is fish, if you live near water and have fishing rights. The fish is usually small, bony, and not particularly fresh. Fish spoils fast, especially in summer. You eat it the same day it is caught, or you salt it, or it becomes poison. There is no middle ground. Fish is also a religious obligation during Lent and other fasting days, which happen constantly. The church forbids meat on certain days but allows fish, as if fish isn't meat, as if fish doesn't come from a living creature. But theological logic is not your concern. You just follow the rules and eat fish when told and meat when allowed, and try not to starve in the process. Dairy exists but is problematic. Milk spoils within hours. There is no refrigeration. So milk is immediately turned into cheese or butter. The cheese is hard, salty, and often infested with mites. The mites are protein. You eat them with the cheese. The butter is rancid more often than not because storing it is nearly impossible. Rancid butter tastes like regret, but you use it anyway because fat is calories and calories are survival. Eggs are a luxury. Chickens lay eggs but not consistently. In winter they barely lay at all. And the eggs you do get are small and sometimes suspicious. You check them by floating them in water. If they sink, they're probably fresh. If they float, they're rotten. You eat the sinkers and throw away the floaters unless you are desperate, in which case you eat the floaters too, and hope the cooking kills whatever's growing inside. There are no spices in your life. Spices exist, but they're expensive enough that only the wealthy can afford them. You have access to salt, which is valuable and taxed. You have herbs that grow locally, parsley, sage, thyme if you are lucky. These add some flavour to the endless pottage. But pepper, cinnamon, cloves, nutmeg, those are myths. Rumours of flavours from distant lands that you'll never taste. Sugar doesn't exist in your world. Well, it exists, but it is so rare and expensive that it might as well not exist. Sweetness comes from honey if you can get it. Honey is precious, a luxury. You might have honey once or twice a year, usually mixed into something for a special occasion. The rest of the time, sweet things are just a memory. Fruit is seasonal and limited. Apples in fall. Maybe some berries in summer. The fruit is small, tart, and often wormy. You eat around the worms, or with the worms. Protein is protein. The apples are nothing like modern apples. They're hard, sour, barely edible raw. You cook them or press them for cider. The cider ferments quickly and becomes alcohol, which is fine because alcohol is safer than water anyway. Nuts exist. You might have access to hazelnuts or chestnuts if there are trees nearby. Nuts are valuable, high in fat and protein, and they store well. You gather them in fall and ration them through winter. But you are competing with squirrels and other animals for the nuts, and with other humans. If someone finds a good nut tree, they don't share that information. They harvest it quietly and keep the bounty for their family. The monotony of the diet is soul-crushing. The same meals every day. Pottage, bread. More pottage, maybe some cheese. Definitely more pottage for months. For years, for your entire life. You will never walk into a restaurant and order something different. You will never try cuisine from another culture. You will never even try cuisine from another region. You eat what grows locally, what stores locally, what is available locally, and what is available is limited, boring, and barely adequate. The inadequacy of the diet has consequences. You are malnourished. Everyone's malnourished, not starvation. Level malnourished usually, but chronic, constant, low-level malnourishment. You are not getting enough vitamins, not enough protein, not enough calories really, for the amount of work you are doing. Your body is running on a deficit. It is burning through itself to keep functioning. This is why everyone looks thin, not fit, thin, malnourished, thin, wiry and worn. You can see people's ribs, their faces are gaunt, their eyes are sunken. This is the medieval peasant aesthetic. Nobody's fat. Fat is for rich people who have access to more food than they can eat. Fat is a sign of wealth. You are not wealthy. You are perpetually on the edge of too thin. The malnutrition affects everything. Your immune system is compromised. You get sick more often and recover more slowly. Your wounds heal poorly. Your bones are weak. Broken bones are common and often don't heal properly. You probably know several people who have limps from badly healed fractures. Your teeth are falling out partly from lack of dental care, but also from nutritional deficiencies. Your hair is thin and brittle. Your skin is dry and flaky. Your body is literally deteriorating from lack of proper nutrition. Children have it worse. Kids need calories and nutrients to grow. They're not getting them. So medieval children are small for their age. Stunted. They don't reach their genetic potential for height because they're chronically underfed. An adult medieval peasant is several inches shorter than their modern equivalent would be. Not because of genetics, because of diet, because of poverty, because of a system that takes so much from peasants that it doesn't leave enough for basic human development. Women have it especially bad. Women are expected to eat last and least. After the men have eaten, after the children have eaten, women eat whatever's left, which is often not much. This is justified by saying men need more calories because they do more physical labor, which is bullshit. Women work just as hard, just differently, but the social hierarchy is clear. Men first, then children, then women always. Pregnant women are supposed to eat more. Everyone knows that. But knowing and doing are different things. There isn't more food. So pregnant women just continue to eat inadequate amounts while their bodies try to build another human. This is why maternal mortality is so high. This is why babies are born small and weak. This is why so many children die. It starts with the mother's diet during pregnancy. Everything cascades from there. And meals are not social occasions. Not like you imagine. There is no family gathered around a table having conversations. There is one pot. Everyone eats from it, standing or sitting wherever there is space. You eat quickly because there is work to do. You don't savor food because there is nothing to savor. You just consume calories as efficiently as possible and move on. Meals are functional, transactional. Food goes in, energy comes out, life continues. That is it. The one exception is feast days. A few times a year, usually around religious holidays, there is a feast. The whole village gets together. People pool resources and make more food than usual. There might be meat. There might be better bread. There might be Allen instead of small beer. These feasts are supposed to be celebrations, and in a way they are. But they're also painful reminders of what you don't have the rest of the year. You eat more than usual and your stomach, unused to large quantities of food, rebels. You spend the next day feeling sick from overeating. But you do it anyway because when will you get another chance? This is medieval food, not cuisine. Not even really food in the sense of something enjoyable. Just fuel, barely adequate fuel. Consumed not for pleasure but for survival. Day after day, year after year, the same limited options, prepared the same ways, producing the same bland results. And you are grateful for it. Because the alternative isn't eating something better. The alternative is eating nothing. And nothing kills you faster than anything. The beer tastes like bread water, which is essentially what it is. It is not refreshing. It is not delicious. It is liquid survival. You drink about a gallon of it a day because you need hydration, and because, again, water will kill you. Medieval water sources are contaminated with human waste, animal waste, and a general collection of bacteria that would horrify a modern scientist. Nobody knows this, of course. Germ theory won't be discovered for another 500 years. Right now, people just know that water makes you sick and beer doesn't. So beer it is. 3 meals a day, every day, forever. Your father finishes his pottage and stands up. He doesn't say anything. He doesn't need to. Everyone knows what happens next. It is time to work. In medieval life, you work from sun up to sundown, and sometimes beyond that, if the Lord decides he needs something done urgently. Today is a regular day, which means about 12 to 14 hours of manual labor that will destroy your body slowly over time. By the time you are 40, if you live that long, your spine will be curved, your hands will be twisted with arthritis, and every morning will feel like this morning, except worse. But that is future, use problem. Present you has to get through today. You grab your tools which are kept by the door. A wooden hoe with an iron blade that has been sharpened so many times it is more edge than blade. A sickle for cutting grain, although most of the grain is already harvested. A basket for carrying whatever needs carrying. The tools are communal, sort of. Technically, they belong to your father, but in practice, they belong to whoever needs them at any given moment. Tool ownership is fluid when you are this poor. Your father is already out the door. Your brother follows. You follow your brother. This is the routine. It never changes. Behind you, you can hear your mother starting her own list of tasks, which is somehow longer than yours despite being equally impossible. She'll spend the day spinning wool, mending clothes that are more whole than fabric, preparing the midday meal, feeding the children, cleaning things that can never truly be clean, and probably doing 6 other things simultaneously. Medieval women are miracle workers. They have to be. Nobody else is going to do it. Outside, the village is fully awake now. The sun is starting to rise, turning the sky from grey to pale yellow. It is not a beautiful sunrise. There is too much cloud cover for that. It is just the sky getting marginally lighter and reminding you that another day of suffering is beginning. Other villagers are emerging from their houses, all looking equally miserable. Everyone exchanges nods. No one smiles. Smiling is not a medieval activity. You are all too tired and too hungry, and too aware that today will be the same as yesterday, and tomorrow will be the same as today for the rest of your short lives. You head toward the fields. The walk is about 10 minutes, which doesn't sound long until you remember you are walking through mud, because medieval roads are not paved. They're just dirt paths that turn into rivers of mud whenever it rains, which is frequently. Your shoes are immediately soaked. Your feet are immediately cold. You try to step on the drier patches, but there aren't many. By the time you reach the fields, your feet are wet, your shoes are ruined a little bit more, and you've accepted that comfort is not something you'll experience today. The fields stretch out before you, divided into long strips. Your family works 3 strips, which is your allotment from the Lord, in exchange for working these strips and keeping some of what you grow. You also work the Lord's fields for free several days a week. It is called corvée labour, which is a French word that means compulsory unpaid work, or in simpler terms, legal slavery. You don't get to choose whether you do it. You just do it because if you don't, the Lord's bailiff will fine you, or worse, evict you, and then you'll be landless, and landless peasants are just beggars waiting to die. Today, you are working your family's strips. The harvest is mostly done, but there is still work to do. Gleaning, which means picking up any leftover grain from the harvest, turning the soil for winter, clearing rocks that have somehow surfaced since last year. Medieval farming is constant. You are never done. You finish one task and immediately start another, and all of them are back-breaking. It is late October. This is a transitional season, and transitional seasons are especially difficult in medieval life. Not as brutal as winter, but preparing for winter while still recovering from the exhausting harvest season. Your body is already worn down from months of intensive labour. The harvest lasted from July through September, 3 solid months of the hardest work of the year. cutting grain with a sickle for hours every day, binding sheaves, threshing, winnowing, processing hundreds of pounds of grain by hand. Your body hasn't recovered. It won't recover. Winter is coming, and winter requires its own preparation. Cutting firewood, repairing the house, slaughtering animals, preserving food, preparing for months of cold and darkness, and even more grinding survivals. The seasons dictate everything in medieval life. You don't have climate control, no heating beyond your fire, no cooling at all. You are completely at the mercy of the weather. And the weather in medieval England is miserable pretty much year round, just in different ways depending on the season. Spring is mud, that is the main characteristic. The ground thaws and everything becomes a swamp. You can't walk anywhere without sinking into mud. Your shoes, already terrible, become waterlogged. Your feet are perpetually wet and cold. The fields are too muddy to plough for weeks. You wait, you watch the mud. You hope it dries enough before planting season becomes too late. If spring is too wet, planting is delayed. Delayed planting means late harvest. Late harvest means not enough time to prepare for winter. One season affects all the others. Everything is connected in a fragile chain, where one problem cascades into multiple disasters. Spring is also hungry season. The food stores from last year are running out. The crops aren't ready yet. This is the gap. The dangerous time between winter survival and summer abundance. Abundance is relative. Summer is never actually abundant, but compared to spring, it feels like it. In spring, you are eating scraps, the oldest grain from the bottom of the barrel. Vegetables that have been stored in the root cellar all winter and are now soft and sprouting and barely edible. You eat them anyway. Hunger is not picky. Spring means desperately trying to find supplemental food, foraging in the woods, looking for early wild greens, dandelions, nettles, things that are barely food, but have calories. You might catch fish if you are near a stream, and if fishing doesn't require a license from the Lord, which it usually does. Poaching is illegal. The Lord owns the game, the deer, the rabbits, the fish. Catching them without permission is theft, punishable by fines. You can't pay or physical punishment like losing a hand. So you don't poach, or if you do, you are very, very careful. And you live with the fear that you'll be caught, and your family will lose its main provider, because you were desperate enough to catch a rabbit. Summer is better, warmer at least. The crops are growing. There is more food available, wild berries, new vegetables. The chickens are laying eggs more consistently. But summer also means the hardest work, tending the fields constantly, weeding, watering during dry spells, which means carrying water by hand, because irrigation systems are for rich estates, not peasant strips, fighting off birds and animals that want to eat your crop. You are working 12 to 14 hours a day, every day, trying to keep the plants alive, because those plants are your survival. If the crops fail, you starve. It is that simple. Summer also means heat, real heat, the kind that kills people. You are working in full sun, wearing wool, because that is the only fabric you have. Wool in summer. You sweat through it. The wool gets heavy and scratchy, and starts to smell worse than usual. You develop heat rash. Your skin chafes. You are dizzy from the heat and the dehydration and the constant labor. People collapse. People die from heat stroke, though they don't call it that. They just say someone died from the heat, and everyone nods because it happens every summer. Then there is harvest, late summer through early fall, the most critical time of year. Everything depends on the harvest. A good harvest means survival. A bad harvest means famine. The pressure is enormous. Everyone in the village works. Children, elderly, everyone. You are in the fields from dawn to dusk, cutting grain as fast as you can. Speed matters because weather matters. If it rains before you get the grain in, the crop can rot. If it rains after you cut it, but before you can bind and store it, it is ruined. You are racing against time and weather and the constant threat of disaster. Harvest is also when the Lord's cut is determined. The bailiff comes through and assesses the harvest. He decides how much goes to the Lord. The Lord always gets his share first. Before you know if you have enough to survive, you watch them loading carts with your grain, grain you grew, grain you harvested, grain your family needs, and there is nothing you can say. The Lord takes what he takes. You keep what is left, and you hope it is enough. After harvest comes fall, the season you are in now, relief mixed with anxiety. Relief that the harvest is done. Anxiety about winter. Fall is preparation season. Firewood is the priority. You need to cut and split and stack enough wood to last through winter. That is months of fuel. Trees need to be felled, which is dangerous. Lumber is heavy. Axes are sharp. People get injured. People die. Your neighbour lost a hand to an axe accident 3 years ago. He has been barely surviving ever since, doing whatever work he can with one hand, dependent on his family and village charity. Firewood preparation is endless. You cut all day, split all day, stack all day, and it is never enough. You always underestimate how much you'll need. Winter is longer than you remember, colder than you remember. You run out of wood in February and have to make desperate choices. Burn furniture, burn tools, burn anything that can burn, or freeze. Those are the options. Fall is also butchering season. Any animals you can't feed through winter get slaughtered, usually the pig, sometimes chickens. The animals are killed, butchered, and preserved, salted or smoked. The meat has to last months. It is done as quickly as possible because you have no refrigeration. The meat starts spoiling immediately. You work fast. Everyone works fast. Blood everywhere. Guts everywhere. The smell is overwhelming, but it has to be done. This meat is survival. And then comes winter, the boss fight, the final test. Winter in medieval times is not cozy fires and snow days. It is a months-long siege where your enemies are cold, hunger, and disease. The temperature drops. The days get shorter. By December, you are waking up in darkness and going to bed in darkness. The brief hours of daylight are grey and weak. The sun is barely visible through constant cloud cover. The cold is relentless. Inside your house, it is only marginally warmer than outside. The fire helps, but only right next to it. 3 feet away, you are freezing. You wear all your clothes at once. Layers of wool that haven't been washed in months. You are bulky and uncomfortable and still cold. You sleep in your clothes. Everyone sleeps in their clothes. You only take them off when they literally fall apart and need to be replaced. The cold makes everything harder. Your hands don't work properly. Simple tasks like tying knots or handling tools become difficult. Your fingers are numb. You drop things. You are clumsy. And being clumsy in winter is dangerous. Breaking a tool you can't replace. Dropping food you can't spare. Injuring yourself when your body is already compromised by cold and malnutrition. Food in winter is scarce and boring. You are eating stored grain, stored vegetables, preserved meat if you have any left. Variety doesn't exist. It is the same meal every day. Pottage made from whatever grain you have, with whatever old vegetables you can find, and occasionally a bit of salt pork if you are rationing properly. The food is nutritionally inadequate. You are not getting enough calories. You are definitely not getting enough vitamins. Scurvy is common. Your gums bleed. Your teeth get looser. Old wounds stop healing properly. This is winter. Disease is worse in winter. Everyone's crowded indoors, sharing air and germs. Respiratory infections spread fast. Coughs, fevers, lung sickness. People die. A lot of people die. Winter kills more people than any other season. The old die first. Their bodies just give up. Then the very young. Babies and toddlers who can't regulate their body temperature. Then anyone who is already sick or injured. Winter culls the weak. It is brutal. It is efficient. It is just how it is. And winter is long. 4 months. Maybe 5. From November through March, you are in survival mode. Not living. Just surviving. Each day is about getting through to the next day. You wake up. You try to stay warm. You eat your inadequate food. You do whatever minimal work the weather allows. You go to bed. Repeat. For months, the monotony is crushing. The same cold, the same hunger, the same grey skies, the same hopelessness. Day after day, after day. And then finally, spring returns. The snow melts. The mud returns. The cycle starts over. You survived another winter, barely. Others didn't. You'll attend their funerals. You'll help dig their graves. Though the ground is still partially frozen, and digging is torture, you'll move on, because there is no time to grieve. Planting season is starting. The fields need work. Life continues, whether you are ready or not. This is the medieval year, not divided into fun seasons with different activities, divided into survival challenges, each season trying to kill you in its own way. Spring starves you. Summer exhausts you. Fall races you against time. Winter freezes you. And then it starts over, every year, your entire life. Right now in late October, you are in the brief window between harvest exhaustion and winter horror. It should be a relief. It is not. It is just different anxiety. The anxiety of knowing what is coming, knowing you are not prepared enough, knowing you never can be prepared enough, knowing that in a few weeks the cold will settle in and you'll spend months being miserable in ways you are miserable right now, but worse, so much worse. But that is future suffering. Present suffering is more than enough to deal with. You are standing in a field, cold and tired and hungry, preparing land for next year's crops while worrying about this year's survival. This is medieval life. Always working toward a future that will probably be just as terrible as the present. Always hoping things will get better, despite centuries of evidence that they won't. Always surviving, because the alternative is dying, and despite everything, you are not ready to die yet. Even when living barely qualifies as living. Your father doesn't give instructions. Everyone knows what to do. You've been doing this since you were 6 years old. Your brother takes the fast trip. You take the middle one, your father takes the nearest one, and also keeps an eye on both of you to make sure you are working properly. Medieval parenting is just supervised labor. You start with a hoe, breaking up the soil that has become compacted over the summer. The ground is hard. Your arms are tired within 10 minutes. You keep going because stopping is not an option. The hoe is heavy. Your hands, already calloused from years of this exactivity, start to hurt anyway. You develop blisters on top of calluses. It is possible. You are living proof. The sun is higher now, which means it is maybe 7 or 8 in the morning. You've been working for about an hour. You'll work for at least 6 more before there is a break. Your back is already aching. You straighten up for a moment, pressing your hands into your lower back, trying to relieve the pressure. It doesn't help. You bend back down and keep working. This is your life. This is everyone's life. You break the soil until you are broken yourself. Around you, other villagers are doing similar work. Everyone is silent. No one sings work songs like in the movies. Everyone is too tired and too focused on not dying of exhaustion. The only sounds are the thuds of tools hitting dirt, the occasional grunt when someone lifts something heavy, and the ever-present coughing. Everyone coughs in medieval villages. Everyone. It is the combination of smoke inhalation, dust, mold, and probably tuberculosis. Lung health is not a medieval priority. About 2 hours in, you notice something. Your hands are bleeding, not badly. Just small cracks in the calloused skin where the repetitive motion has finally broken through. You don't stop working. You just bleed onto the hoe handle and keep going. This is not unusual. Everyone's hands bleed. It is just part of the job. You'll wrap them later with strips of cloth if you remember, but probably you won't, because there are always more pressing problems. The morning drags on with the speed of geological time. Every minute feels like an hour. Every hour feels like a day. You are not even halfway through the morning, and your entire body is screaming. Your shoulders hurt. Your back hurts. Your legs hurt from standing bent over. Your hands hurt from gripping the hoe. Your feet hurt from standing on uneven ground. There is not a single part of you that doesn't hurt. And this is normal. This is every day. This is what it means to be a medieval peasant. Your father coughs again. The wet, terrible cough that sounds like his lungs are trying to escape his body. He spits into the dirt, continues working. Nobody comments on it. What would be the point? There is no solution. There is no treatment. There is just the hope that he'll live long enough to see the next harvest. And if he doesn't, then your brother will become head of the household at age 15. And life will continue, just as miserable as before. By mid-morning, maybe around 10 or 11, you're allowed a brief break. Not because anyone cares about your well-being, but because humans physically cannot work without stopping. And your father is practical enough to know that pushing too hard means pushing someone into collapse. You sit down on the cold ground, which is uncomfortable, but at least takes the weight off your feet. Your father pulls out a small piece of bread, breaks it into 3 portions, hands them out. The bread is hard, not crusty artisanal hard, rock hard. You have to soften it with beer or you'll break a tooth. And losing a tooth in medieval times is not a cosmetic problem. It is a survival problem. You need your teeth to eat, and you need to eat to live. Dental care is non-existent. Teeth rot and fall out, and then you just have fewer teeth and a harder time eating. That is it. That is the whole system. You chew the softened bread, slowly, trying to make it last. It tastes like flour and disappointment. There is no butter, no jam, just bread. But it is calories, and calories are life. so you eat it gratefully. Your stomach stops growling for approximately 10 minutes before it starts again. You are still hungry. You are always hungry. Get used to it. The break lasts maybe 15 minutes, then your father stands up. And that is the signal. Back to work. You stand up, every joint protesting. And pick up the hoe again. Your hands have gone stiff during the break, and gripping the handle sends fresh pain through your torn palms. You ignore it. Pain is just information, and you already know the information. Everything hurts. Moving on. The afternoon is worse than the morning. The sun is higher, which means it is warmer, which sounds good until you realize that warmer means you are sweating through your tunic. And sweat means the fabric is chafing against your skin, and chafing means raw patches that will sting all night. Also, the sun gives you a headache. You are mildly dehydrated because you haven't drunk enough beer, and the sun is making it worse. Your vision occasionally sparkles at the edges. You might be close to heat stroke, or you might just be experiencing a regular medieval afternoon. Hard to tell. Around noon, someone brings food. It is your younger sister, the one who is about 10 years old and therefore old enough to be useful. She is carrying a basket with more bread and some cheese. The cheese is hard and yellow and slightly mouldy, but mould is flavour in medieval times. You cut off the obviously bad parts and eat the rest. It tastes sharp and salty and not entirely unlike food. The bread is the same as breakfast. You eat it anyway. Your sister also brings a jug of beer, which you drink deeply. It is warm because refrigeration doesn't exist, but it is wet, and that is what matters. Lunch lasts about 20 minutes. You eat standing up because sitting down and then standing back up is too much work. Your body is that tired. Moving between positions requires energy you don't have. So you stand, you eat, you drink, and then you get back to work. The afternoon stretches ahead of you like a prison sentence. You've been working for about 6 hours. You'll work for at least 5 or 6 more. The work changes slightly in the afternoon. You finish breaking up the soil on your strip, so now you are picking rocks. Medieval fields are full of rocks. They come up through the soil every year like they're being farmed themselves. You have to remove them or they'll damage the plough and ruin the crops. So you bend down, pick up a rock, carry it to the edge of the field, drop it in a pile. Repeat. For hours. Your back bends and straightens, until you are not sure it will ever be straight again. Each rock is cold and rough in your hands. Some of them are heavy enough that you need 2 hands to lift them. Your arms shake with the effort. You drop a particularly large rock on your foot, and pain shoots up your leg. You curse, which is one of the few luxuries medieval peasants are allowed. Cursing is free. You can swear as much as you want. It doesn't help, but it doesn't hurt either. So you curse the rock, the field, the lord, the weather, and the general state of existence in 1320. Your foot throbs, but you keep working because stopping means explaining to your father why you stopped, and that conversation is worse than the pain. Medieval parenting is not sympathetic. If you are not actively dying, you are fine. And even if you are actively dying, you should probably finish this row first. The sun moves across the sky with agonizing slowness. You watch its progress because it is the only clock you have. When it is directly overhead, it is midday. When it is 3/4 down to the horizon, it is mid-afternoon. When it is touching the horizon, you can finally stop. Until then, you work. Your hands move automatically now. Bend, lift, carry, drop. Bend, lift, carry, drop. You are not thinking anymore. You are just a machine made of meat and suffering. Around mid-afternoon, maybe 3 or 4 o'clock, something happens. One of the other villagers, an older man named Edmund, who is probably 50 and looks 70, collapses, just drops right into the field like a puppet with cut strings. Everyone stops working. This is not routine. Your father walks over quickly. Other men gather around. You stay where you are because you are young, and therefore not important in decision making. Edmund is not dead, but he is not responsive either. Someone suggests water. Someone else points out that they have beer but not water. Someone pours beer on his face. Edmund sputters, coughs, opens his eyes. He tries to sit up, can't quite manage it. The men help him to a sitting position. He is pale and sweating, and looks like death, has personally visited him and given him a business card. After some discussion conducted in low voices, it is decided that Edmund has been working too hard without enough food. This is the medieval diagnosis for basically everything that isn't obviously plague or injury. The cure is to sit down for a while and have some bread. Edmund is given bread. He eats it slowly. After about 30 minutes he feels well enough to stand. Everyone goes back to work, including Edmund. Because if he doesn't work, his family doesn't eat. That is the choice. Work or starve. Those are the options. You go back to moving rocks. The incident with Edmund has shaken you slightly, because it is a reminder that the human body has limits and medieval life doesn't care about those limits. You push too hard, you break, you die, your family suffers. It is a chain of consequences that starts with exhaustion and ends with your children begging for food. So you pace yourself slightly more carefully, trying to find the balance between working hard enough not to get yelled at and not working so hard you collapse like Edmund. But Edmund's collapse reminds you of something else, something you've been trying not to think about. Your neighbour, Thomas, who died 3 weeks ago. He was 32 years old. One day he was fine, working the fields just like everyone else. The next day he was coughing. The day after that, he had a fever. 4 days later, he was dead. Nobody knows what killed him. Fever, probably, or the sweating sickness, or just the general accumulation of a lifetime of malnutrition, overwork, and exposure. Medieval death doesn't need a specific cause. It just needs an opportunity. Thomas's death was not unique. Death is everywhere in medieval villages. It is so common, it is barely noteworthy. Children die constantly. Infants die even more constantly. Women die in childbirth. Men die from injuries that get infected. Old people, meaning anyone over 40, die from being old, which is really just code for their bodies giving up after decades of abuse. The average life expectancy is somewhere around 35 years, which sounds low until you realize that number is dragged down by infant mortality. If you make it past age 5, you might live to 40. If you make it to 40, you are basically ancient. And everyone treats you like you are about to keel over at any moment. Because you probably are. Thomas's widow is still in the village. She is 28 and has 4 children under the age of 10. Without a husband, she is essentially doomed. She can't work the fields alone. She has no income. Her options are to remarry immediately, which means finding someone willing to take on 4 extra mouths to feed, or to become dependent on the charity of the village, which is not really charity so much as everyone giving her the bare minimum to keep her and her kids from literally starving in front of them. You've seen her in the village looking gaunt and desperate. Her children look worse. They've gone from thin to skeletal in 3 weeks. This is what death does in medieval villages. It doesn't just take one person, it destroys entire families. And Thomas's death is still fresh in everyone's mind because they haven't fully cleaned out his house yet. His body was buried, obviously. The village priest said some words in Latin that nobody understood, and they put Thomas in the ground in the churchyard next to dozens of other graves. But his house still smells like death. That sweet, sickly smell that lingers for weeks after someone dies. His widow is still living there with the children because she has nowhere else to go. Every time you walk past, you smell it. Everyone smells it. Nobody mentions it. What would be the point? Death is not just common in medieval life. It is expected casual. You grow up surrounded by it. Your siblings die in infancy. Your friends die from accidents. Your parents die while they're still relatively young. You attend funerals constantly. The churchyard is full, and they're running out of space, so they're starting to bury people on top of older graves. The church doesn't have enough money for proper headstones, so most graves are just marked with wooden crosses that rot away after a few years. Eventually, nobody remembers who is buried where. The dead just become part of the soil, and life continues for the living. Until it doesn't. You think about this as you bend down to pick up another rock. You think about Thomas, who was alive 3 weeks ago and is now rotting in the ground. You think about Edmund, who almost joined him this afternoon. You think about your father's cough, which is getting worse. You think about your own body, which is 24 years old and already falling apart. You wonder how much longer you have, 10 years. 20 if you are lucky. You'll probably never see 40. Your children, if you have any, will probably bury you while they're still young. And then they'll do exactly what you are doing now. Breaking their backs in these same fields. Picking up these same rocks. Waiting for their own turn to die. Medieval life is not about living. It is about not dying yet. Every day you wake up is a small victory over the universe's apparent determination to kill you. And eventually, the universe wins. It always wins. You are just buying time, and the price is constant suffering. You shake these thoughts away and focus on the rocks. Thinking about death while you are working is dangerous. It makes you careless. And careless people have accidents. And accidents, in medieval times, are just another word for death with extra steps. So you focus. Bend, lift, carry, drop. Bend, lift, carry, drop. The rocks are solid and real. The work is solid and real. Everything else is just the background noise of existence. The afternoon wears on. The sun continues its slow journey toward the horizon. Your body continues its slow journey toward complete collapse. But you keep working because that is what you do. That is what everyone does. Work until you can't, then work a little more, then finally stop when the sun sets. This is the rhythm of medieval life. The sun dictates everything. When it is up, you work. When it is down, you rest. There is no artificial light to extend the day. No electricity to blur the line between day and night. You are completely at the mercy of natural cycles, which means you are completely at the mercy of the weather, the seasons, and the slow rotation of the earth. Around you, other villagers are locked in their own private struggles with rocks and soil and exhaustion. Everyone's thinking the same thing. Just a few more hours. Just a few more hours and we can stop. Just a few more hours and we can eat. Just a few more hours and we can lie down. The promise of evening is the only thing keeping people moving. That and the knowledge that if you stop too early there will be consequences. Your father will yell. The work won't get done. Next week will be harder. So you push through. Everyone pushes through. This is medieval solidarity. Not helping each other. Just suffering together. An hour before sunset, something else happens. You hear shouting from the direction of the manor house. Everyone stops working and looks up. Shouting is not normal. Shouting means something's wrong, or something's about to be wrong for the peasants, which is usually how it works out. A man on horseback is riding toward the fields. He is wearing better clothes than anyone in the village, which means he is from the manor. Probably the bailiff, who is the lord's administrator, and everyone's least favourite person. The bailiff is responsible for collecting rents, organising corvée labour, and generally making sure the peasants stay exploited. He is not noble himself. He is just a peasant who got promoted and immediately forgot what it was like to be poor, which makes him worse than the nobles. Honestly, at least the nobles are born into their cruelty. The bailiff chose his. The bailiff rides into the field, and everyone automatically stops working and faces him. This is the protocol. When someone from the manor shows up, you stop what you are doing and you listen. Ignoring them is not an option. Your father walks forward, because he is one of the elder men in the village and therefore designated to deal with this kind of thing. You stay back, but you can hear everything. The bailiff doesn't get off his horse. Of course he doesn't. Getting off would mean lowering himself to peasant level, and that is beneath his dignity. He stays mounted and speaks down to your father, literally and figuratively. His message is simple and devastating. The Lord needs extra labour this week. Something about repairs to the manor house. All able-bodied men are required to work the Lord's demesne for the next 3 days. Full days. Dawn to dusk. No exceptions. Your father's face doesn't change. He doesn't argue. Arguing with the bailiff is pointless. The Lord's word is law. If the Lord says you work, you work. Your father just nods and says they'll be there at dawn. The bailiff nods back, satisfied, and rides off to the next field to ruin someone else's week. As soon as the bailiff is out of earshot, your father spits into the dirt. It is the only act of defiance he can afford. 3 days of corvée labour means 3 days not working your own fields. It means the work you are doing now, which is already behind schedule, will fall even further behind. It means less time to prepare for winter. It means everything gets harder. But there is no choice. The Lord demands, the peasants provide. That is the system. It has been the system for hundreds of years. It will be the system for hundreds more. Your father walks back to his strip and picks up his hoe. He doesn't say anything. He doesn't need to. Everyone heard. Everyone understands. The village just got collectively screwed, and there is nothing anyone can do about it. So you all go back to work, moving a little faster now, trying to get as much done as possible before you lose 3 days to the Lord's whims. This is the reality of feudalism. It is not a social system. It is organised theft. The Lord owns the land. You work the land. The Lord takes most of what you produce. You keep barely enough to survive. And if the Lord decides he needs something, he just takes your time too. Your labour, your life. You have no say in this. You were born into this arrangement, and you'll die in it. And your children will inherit it like a genetic disease. You go back to your rocks with renewed anger. The physical work helps. You can channel your frustration into lifting and carrying and dropping. Bend, lift, carry. Drop. Each rock is the bailiff's face. Each throw is a small act of imaginary violence. It doesn't change anything. but it makes you feel slightly better, slightly less powerless, which is probably the closest thing to happiness you'll experience today. The news about the corvée labour spreads through the field. Everyone's mood darkens. People work faster, more aggressively. There is a collective anger that is palpable, but it is directionless anger. You can't fight the Lord. You can't refuse the labour. All you can do is be angry about it while you continue to comply. This is peasant resistance, not rebellion, just resentment. Quiet, impotent resentment that never goes anywhere, because going anywhere would mean death or exile or both. Some villages have tried to resist. You've heard stories. A village 2 counties over refused to pay their taxes last year. The Lord sent soldiers. 3 men were hanged. The rest of the village was fined double. The message was clear: comply or die. Most people choose to comply. Death is not an attractive alternative. So you work the Lord's fields, you pay the Lord's taxes, you bow and scrape, and yes sir, no sir, and you swallow your pride and your anger and you survive. That is the victory. Not pride, not dignity, just survival. The sun continues its descent. Your anger continues its pointless burning. The work continues its relentless demand for your body and time and life. This is a day in medieval life. Not just physical hardship, but systematic institutional exploitation. You are not just fighting nature and hunger and disease. You are fighting a system designed to extract every possible drop of value from your existence, while giving you just enough to keep you alive enough to be exploited tomorrow. By the time your father finally calls it a day, you are exhausted in ways that go beyond physical tiredness. Your body is wrecked, your hands are bleeding, your back is screaming, but your spirit is somehow even more broken. The corvée labour announcement has taken what was already a terrible day and made it catastrophically worse. 3 days. 3 days you don't have. 3 days that will push your family closer to the edge of disaster. As you walk back to the village, the sun is setting in a way that would be beautiful if you had any energy left to appreciate beauty. The sky is orange and pink and purple. The clouds are lit up like they're on fire. It is stunning. You don't care. You are too tired and too angry to care about sunsets. Beauty is for people who have the luxury of looking at things without calculating their survival value. You are not those people. The afternoon continues its slow crawl toward evening. Your shadow grows longer. The air grows colder. The sun sinks lower. Finally, mercifully, when the sun is just touching the horizon, your father straightens up and says the most beautiful word in the medieval vocabulary. Enough. You drop the rock you are holding. You don't place it carefully. You just drop it. Your hands are too tired to do anything else. Your brother does the same. Everyone in the field is doing the same. There is a collective sigh of relief, so profound. It is almost spiritual. The workday is over. You've survived another one. The walk back to the village is slower than the walk out. Everyone is exhausted. People limp. People lean on each other. Your father is walking stiffly, his back clearly bothering him. Your brother looks like he has aged 10 years in one day. You probably look the same. You feel like you are made of pain and barely held together with determination. By the time you get back to the village, the sun has set. The sky is that deep blue of early evening. It is getting cold fast. Your sweat has dried, leaving you chilled and sticky. You want to wash, but washing requires water and energy and time, and you have none of these things. So you'll stay dirty. Everyone stays dirty. Medieval life is just various degrees of filthy. Inside the house, your mother has been working just as hard as you. She has prepared dinner, which is more pottage. It is a different pottage than breakfast, theoretically. This one has been cooking all day, and it has got some cabbage in it, and maybe a bit of meat if you are lucky. You look into the pot, no meat, just cabbage, onions and oats. It is brown instead of grey. That is the only difference. But at least there is dinner. At least there is something. You think about Thomas's widow and her 4 children. What are they eating tonight? Probably less than this. Probably scraps begged from neighbours. Probably going to bed hungry. Your family is poor, desperately poor, but at least you have 2 working adults. Thomas's family has 1 adult and 4 dependents. The math doesn't work, it can't work. They'll suffer through the winter. And by spring, probably 1 or 2 of those children will be dead. It is not cruelty to think this. It is realism. Medieval realism is just acknowledging the disasters before they happen. Your mother serves the dinner. Same order as breakfast. Father first, then your brother, then you. then the women and younger children. The hierarchy never changes. Your father eats 2 full ladles of pottage. Your brother eats 1.5. You eat 1. By the time it gets to your youngest sister, there is maybe half a ladle left. Your mother gives it to her and takes nothing for herself. This happens often. Your mother eats less than everyone else. She says she is not hungry. She is lying. She is always hungry. Everyone's always hungry. But she is the mother, and mothers sacrifice. That is the job. You watch your mother not eating and feel something complicated. Not quite guilt, not quite gratitude, just awareness. Awareness that she is giving up her portions so the children eat more. Awareness that she'll go to bed hungry again, for the 1000th time. Awareness that her entire life has been sacrifice, and she has never once been thanked for it, because thanks are not currency in medieval life. You don't thank people for doing what they're supposed to do, and mothers are supposed to sacrifice. It is expected, it is normal, it is crushing. After everyone eats, your mother sits down heavily. She looks exhausted, more exhausted than usual. You notice her hands are shaking slightly. That is not good. That is either extreme fatigue or something worse. But you don't say anything. What would you say? She knows she is exhausted. Everyone knows. Acknowledging it doesn't help. It just makes it real, in a way that is harder to ignore. The evening settles into its routine. Your father sharpening tools. Your mother mending clothes. Your siblings doing whatever small tasks they're capable of. You, sitting with the wool, carding it mechanically while your mind wanders. This is family life. Not togetherness in any meaningful sense. Just proximity. Just shared space. Just people existing in parallel. Too tired to interact. Too poor to have anything worth talking about. But there is something else tonight. Attention. The Corvée labor tomorrow is weighing on everyone. 3 days of lost work. 3 days of falling behind. Your father knows it. Your mother knows it. Even your brother, young as he is, knows it. The Lord is taking what he wants, and there is nothing you can do but comply and hope it doesn't destroy you. Hope is a thin thing to survive on, but it is what you have. Outside, the sounds of the village continue. Dogs barking, someone's baby crying. The drunk singing from the alehouse has stopped, replaced by angry yelling. Probably a fight. Fights happen regularly at the alehouse. Men get drunk, tempers flare, punches get thrown. Usually it is harmless. Occasionally, someone gets seriously hurt. Last year, a man lost an eye in an alehouse brawl. Now he can't work as effectively, which means his family suffers. One moment of anger, one lifetime of consequences. That is how fragile medieval life is. One injury, one illness, one bad decision, and everything falls apart. You hear footsteps outside. Someone walking past your house. You don't look. It is not your business. In medieval villages, you learn to mind your own business. Yes, everyone knows everything about everyone, but you don't openly acknowledge it. You don't interfere unless asked, because interfering means getting involved. And getting involved means responsibility, and responsibility means burden. Everyone has enough burden. Nobody needs more. The footsteps fade. Silence returns. Your father finishes with the tools and sets them aside. He looks at the door, and for a moment you think he might go to the alehouse after all. He doesn't. He just sits there, staring at nothing, probably thinking about tomorrow, about the Corvée labor, about winter coming, about all the things that need doing and not enough time to do them. His face is blank, but you can see the stress in the way he is sitting, the tension in his shoulders, the tightness around his eyes. He is worried. He is always worried. Being a medieval peasant father means carrying the weight of constant worry. Knowing that everything depends on you working hard enough, and knowing you can never work hard enough, and knowing that when you inevitably fail, everyone suffers. Your mother finishes mending and folds the clothes carefully. Every motion is deliberate, economical. She is so tired that wasted movement would push her over the edge into collapse. You can see it in the way she moves. Slow, careful. Like someone walking on ice. One wrong step and she falls. She doesn't fall. She doesn't fall. She just keeps going, day after day, year after year, until eventually her body will give up, and she'll die, probably in her 40s, probably from sheer exhaustion, and everyone will say she lived a full life, which is true only in the sense that her life was fully terrible. The fire is dying down now. The room is getting darker, colder. Your father banks the fire for the night. The embers glow red, providing minimal heat and less light. This is the signal. Time for bed. Everyone's relieved. Sleep is escape. Temporary, insufficient escape, but escape nonetheless. You stand up, joints protesting. You are so tired you can barely think. Your brain has stopped processing anything beyond immediate needs. Lie down. Close eyes. Stop existing for a few hours. That is all you want. That is all you can manage. The family arranges itself for sleep. Same positions as always. Same scratchy blankets. Same insufficient everything. You lie down and the day replays in your mind, briefly. Waking up cold. Working until exhaustion. Edmund collapsing. The bailiff announcing Corvée labour. More work, dinner. And now sleep. Tomorrow will be the same. And the day after. And the day after. An endless chain of identical days, stretching forward into a future that looks exactly like the past. Your last conscious thought before sleep is about time. Medieval time doesn't progress, it circles. The seasons repeat, the work repeats, the suffering repeats. Nothing changes, nothing improves. You are not moving forward, you are just going around and around on a wheel that grinds you down slowly. Generation after generation caught in the same cycle. Your grandfather did this. Your father is doing this. You are doing this. Your children will do this forever. Or until the whole system collapses, which it won't, because it has survived for centuries, and will survive for centuries more. You are trapped. Everyone is trapped, and the trap is called feudalism, and it is working exactly as designed. Sleep comes, uncomfortable, interrupted sleep. The sleep of someone whose body is too broken to rest properly, but too exhausted not to try. You drift off with the taste of pottage still in your mouth, the smell of smoke still in your nose, the ache of labour still in your bones. Tomorrow you'll wake up and do it all again, and again, until you die, which, given how you feel right now, might be sooner rather than later. And honestly, that might be a mercy. Welcome to medieval life. Brutal, endless, inescapable medieval life. Not the fairy tale, the reality that millions of people lived through, the reality that killed most of them before they were 40, the reality that we've romanticized into something it never was. This is what 24 hours actually looked like for most of human history. Not an adventure, not a simpler time, just pure grinding survival, day after day, until you couldn't anymore, and then you died, and someone else took your place, and the wheel kept turning. Forever. You eat dinner with the same enthusiasm as breakfast, which is to say, you eat it because you must. It is hot, and it is food, and that is all you can ask for. The cabbage is mushy and tasteless. The onions are strong and make your eyes water. The oats are gluey. It is terrible. You eat every drop. Your stomach finally stops its constant growling and settles into a dull ache of being mostly full. It is the best you'll feel all day. After dinner, there is a brief period where you are not working. This is not free time. Free time doesn't exist. This is time to do the household tasks that keep you alive. Your mother is mending clothes by the light of the fire. Your father is checking the tools, sharpening blades that have dulled from the day's work. Your brother is fetching water from the well, which is a communal well in the centre of the village, and the source of half the diseases that kill people. You are supposed to help, but your body has other ideas. You sit down on the bench, just for a moment, just to rest, and your eyes close involuntarily. Before you can properly fall asleep, there is a knock at the door. This is unusual. People don't visit after dark in medieval times. The night is dangerous, not because of crime, though that exists, but because moving around in complete darkness is a great way to fall into a ditch or step on something that will kill you via infection. Also, everyone's exhausted. Social calls require energy nobody has. So a knock after dark means something's wrong. Your father stands up and opens the door. It is your neighbour, William. He looks uncomfortable, which means he is about to ask for something. In medieval villages, neighbours are essential for survival. You help each other during harvest. You share tools when someone's breaks. You watch each other's children. You pool resources during famines. But every favour creates debt, and debt creates obligation, and obligation creates a complex web of who owes whom what. It is exhausting, but it is also necessary. Nobody survives alone. William's request is simple. He needs to borrow your father's axe tomorrow. His own axe broke today while he was chopping wood, and he can't afford to have it repaired by the village blacksmith for at least another week. Without an axe, he can't split wood. Without wood, his family will freeze. It is late October. Winter is coming. This is not a trivial request. Your father hesitates, not because he doesn't want to help, but because he needs the axe too. He was planning to spend tomorrow cutting and splitting firewood for your own family's winter supply. If he lends William the axe, that is a day lost. But if he refuses, William's family might not survive the winter, and then your father will be known as the man who let his neighbours freeze to death over an axe. In medieval villages, reputation is everything. You are stuck with these people for your entire life. You can't afford to be known as selfish or unkind, even if being kind means sacrificing your own family's well-being. Your father agrees to lend the axe. William looks relieved. He promises to return it tomorrow evening. He also mentions casually that he has some extra turnips from his harvest, and maybe he could share some with your family as thanks. This is how medieval economics works. Not money, barter and favour trading. Everything is negotiated through a complex system of I'll help you now, and you'll help me later. It works mostly, until it doesn't. Until someone doesn't return borrowed tools, or forgets a promised favour, or dies before paying back a debt. Then the whole system breaks down and creates feuds that last generations. William leaves. Your father closes the door. Your mother makes a small comment about the turnips, which are worth less than the lost day of work. But at least it is something. Your father grunts non-committally. This is how marriages work in medieval times. Not romance, not even particularly friendship, just two people managing survival together. Your parents were married when your mother was 14 and your father was 17. They didn't choose each other. Their parents arranged it based on land holdings and family connections. Love was not a factor. Love is not a factor in peasant marriages. Compatibility, maybe. Tolerance, definitely. But love, that is for nobles who can afford poetry and courtship. Peasants get practical partnerships based on who can work the hardest and produce the most children. And children are currency in medieval life. Not in a metaphorical way. Literally, more children means more workers. More workers means more hands to farm, more help around the house, more people to care for you when you are old. Children are your retirement plan. They're also your insurance policy. You have 7 children because you know 3 of them will die. The 4 who survive will hopefully be enough to keep the family going. This is not pessimism, it is mathematics. Infant mortality is around 30%. Child mortality, up to age 5, is even higher. You don't name babies immediately after birth. You wait. You wait to see if they'll survive. Naming something that might die is too painful. Better to wait until you are reasonably sure they'll make it. Your mother lost 3 babies. 1 died at birth. 1 died at 6 months from a fever. 1 died at 2 years from something nobody could identify. She cried each time, but not for long. Crying doesn't bring children back, and there is too much work to do. Grief is a luxury. You feel it briefly, and then you pack it away and keep going. This is how medieval people handle trauma. They don't process it. They just survive it and move on. Therapy doesn't exist. The concept of mental health doesn't exist. You are either sane enough to work or you are not. If you are not, you are either cared for by family, which is rare, or you become a beggar, or you die. Those are the options. Your brother returns with the water. The communal well is a source of constant drama in the village. Everyone needs water. Everyone uses the same well. The well is definitely contaminated because people dump waste near it. Animals drink from the trough next to it, and occasionally someone falls in and drowns. The water tastes bad and makes people sick regularly, but it is the only water source, so people drink it anyway and hope for the best. Boiling it helps, which people do when they're making beer or cooking, but drinking it straight is a gamble. You stick to beer. Your entire family sticks to beer. You'd rather be mildly buzzed 24/7 than die of dysentery. The well is also where village gossip happens. Women gather there in the morning to fetch water and exchange information. Who is pregnant? Who is sick? Who is fighting with whom? Who owes money? Who has been seen talking to someone they shouldn't? Medieval villages are small. Everyone knows everyone. Privacy is impossible. If you have a fight with your spouse, the entire village will know by noon. If your child is sick, people will offer advice and also judgment about your parenting. If you are struggling financially, people will help, but they'll also remember, and they'll bring it up later when they need something from you. This lack of privacy is suffocating. You can't escape, you can't move away. Moving requires money, land rights, and permission from the Lord, none of which you have. So you are stuck in this village with these people for your entire life. The person you hate most in the world. You'll see them every day. The family your family has been feuding with for 2 generations. They live 3 houses down. That embarrassing thing you did when you were 12. Everyone remembers. Everyone will always remember. This is medieval life. No escape, no privacy, no fresh starts. Your thoughts are interrupted by a sound outside. Singing, drunk singing. Someone's at the alehouse. The village has one alehouse, which is really just someone's house where they brew beer and sell it for a penny, a pint. It is the only source of entertainment in the village. Men gather there after work to drink, complain, and occasionally fight. It is not a nice place. It is dark. It smells worse than regular houses, and the beer is questionable quality. But it is somewhere to go that isn't home. Somewhere to be around other people who are equally miserable. Shared misery is better than solo misery. Slightly, your father looks like he is considering going to the alehouse. He doesn't go often. Beer costs money, and money is scarce. But today was hard. The news about the Corvée Labour has everyone stressed. A drink might help. Might being the key word. Medieval beer is not strong. It is small beer, meant for hydration more than intoxication. Getting actually drunk requires a lot of it. But even a little bit helps take the edge off. A terrible day. But your father doesn't go. Instead, he stays home, continuing to sharpen tools by the firelight. This is the responsible choice. The choice that prioritizes survival over comfort. This is what makes someone a good medieval father. Not love or affection or quality time. Just the grinding, relentless focus on keeping the family alive. Your father doesn't hug you. He doesn't ask how you are feeling. He doesn't do anything that resembles modern parenting. But he works every day until his body breaks. He shares his food even when he is hungry. He lends tools to neighbours even when it costs him. This is medieval love, not emotional, practical, silent, expressed through sacrifice, rather than words. Your mother is still mending clothes. She does this every evening. Medieval clothes don't last long. They're made of wool or linen, both of which wear out quickly under constant use and no proper washing. Your tunic has holes. Everyone's tunic has holes. Your mother patches them with scraps of fabric from clothes that are too far gone to repair. She is patching patches at this point. The tunic you are wearing is more patched than original fabric. It looks ridiculous. Nobody cares. Fashion is not a medieval peasant concern. The only thing that matters is whether it covers your body and provides minimal warmth. Aesthetics are for rich people. While your mother sews, she is probably thinking about everything she needs to do tomorrow. Make breakfast. Clean the house, which means sweeping the dirt floor and making it slightly less dirty. Spin wool into thread. Maybe weave if she has time. Prepare lunch. Mend more clothes. Make dinner. Feed the children. Care for any sick family members. Make sure the fire doesn't go out. Check the food stores and worry about whether there is enough to last until next harvest. Medieval women's work is never done. It is not even mostly done. It is an endless, overwhelming list that starts over every single day. And nobody thanks her for it. Your father doesn't thank her. You don't thank her. Your siblings don't thank her. Thanks are not a medieval currency. You don't thank someone for doing what they're supposed to do. Women are supposed to manage the household. Men are supposed to work the fields. Children are supposed to help and not die. That is the system. You don't get praised for meeting expectations. You only get punished for failing to meet them. Your mother looks tired. She is always tired. She has been tired for 20 years. Since she got married at 14 and immediately started having babies. She has had 7 pregnancies. Each one took a toll on her body. Medieval childbirth is dangerous. No painkillers. No sterile conditions. No medical knowledge beyond what local midwives have learned through trial and error. Women go into labour knowing they might not come out alive. About 1 in 5 don't. Your mother survived all 7 births, which makes her either lucky or unusually strong. Probably both. Between pregnancies, she has worked constantly. Pregnant women don't get maternity leave. They work until they literally can't. Give birth, rest for maybe a week if they're lucky, and then get back to work because the household won't run itself. Your mother has never had a vacation. The concept doesn't exist. A break means the work doesn't get done. Work not getting done means the family suffers. So she works. Through illness, through exhaustion, through grief, through everything. because stopping is not an option. You watch her sewing and feel something not quite gratitude. You don't have the emotional vocabulary for gratitude, but awareness maybe. Awareness that her life is even harder than yours, that she is carrying weight you can't see, that she is one more crisis away from complete collapse, just like everyone else, but she keeps going anyway. This is what strength looks like in medieval times. Not heroic acts or grand gestures, just getting up every morning and doing it all again, despite every reason not to. The fire is getting lower, the room is getting colder. Soon it will be time to sleep. But right now, in this brief moment between dinner and bedtime, the family exists in a kind of suspended animation. Everyone's too tired to talk, too tired to do much of anything except sit and stare at the fire and exist. This is family time in the Middle Ages, not game night or conversations. Just shared exhaustion in the same space. Just the comfort of not being alone, even if you are too tired to appreciate it. You hear the church bell ring. It is the Compline bell, signalling the last church service of the day. The bell is cracked and sounds slightly off key, but it is loud enough to hear across the entire village. Church bells structure medieval life. They tell you when to wake up, when to pray, when to work, when to sleep. Not that you need them. The sun does most of that work. But the bells are a reminder that the church is always watching, always present, always demanding your attention and your obedience. The church is the single most powerful institution in medieval life, more powerful than the Lord, in some ways. The Lord controls your labor and your land, but the church controls your soul. And in medieval times, your soul is worth more than your body. Your body suffers for maybe 30 or 40 years and then dies. But your soul is eternal. Where it goes after you die depends entirely on whether you've been good enough. Good enough meaning obedient to the church. The village church is a stone building in the center of the village, next to the graveyard. It is the only stone building most peasants ever enter. It is cold, dark, and smells like incense and mold. The priest, Father Aldrich, is a man in his 40s who can read Latin and therefore wields enormous power. He is not noble. He came from a peasant family himself, but he was sent to train at a monastery when he was young, and now he is educated, which makes him untouchable. He can read, he can write, he can communicate directly with God, supposedly. You cannot do any of these things, which makes you dependent on him for your salvation. Father Aldrich is not a bad man exactly, but he is not particularly good either. He drinks. He has been seen with women, which is forbidden for priests, but happens anyway. He collects tithes aggressively, demanding 10% of everyone's produce, despite knowing that 10% might mean the difference between survival and starvation for some families. But he justifies it by saying the church needs funds for repairs, for candles, for holy wine, for his own sustenance. And who are you to argue with a man who speaks for God? Every Sunday you are required to attend Mass, not optional, required. If you don't show up, Father Aldrich will notice, and he'll mention it publicly next week, and then everyone will know you are not pious, and your reputation will suffer. So you go. Every Sunday, you wake up early, put on your least filthy tunic, and walk to the church with your family. You stand for the entire service because there are no pews. Pews are for rich people. Peasants stand. For an hour. Sometimes too, while Father Aldrich speaks in Latin, which you don't understand, about sins you probably committed and punishments you'll definitely receive if you don't repent. The Mass is not uplifting. It is threatening. The primary message is, you are sinful, you deserve hell, and only through the Church's intercession might you possibly avoid eternal torment. Every sermon is about sin, your sins. Pride, lust, greed, gluttony, envy, wrath, sloth. You are guilty of all of them, according to Father Aldrich. You are prideful when you feel any satisfaction in your work. You are lustful when you think about sex, which the Church says should only happen for procreation within marriage and never for pleasure. You are greedy when you want to keep more of your harvest instead of giving it to the Lord and the Church. You are gluttonous when you eat enough to feel full. You are envious when you resent the Lord's comfortable life. You are wrathful when you are angry about any of this. And you are slothful when you are too exhausted to work, which is your own fault for being weak. It is exhausting being a medieval peasant. You are sinning just by existing. And the punishments are creative. Forget hell. That is the big punishment. But there are earthly punishments too. If you sin badly enough, the Church can excommunicate you, which means cutting you off from all sacraments. No communion, no confession, no church burial when you die, which means your body goes in unhallowed ground and your soul is damned. Excommunication is social death. Nobody will trade with you. Nobody will talk to you. You become a ghost while still alive. It is rare, but the threat is always there. More common are the saints' days and holy days, which happen constantly. The medieval calendar is packed with them. Days where you are not supposed to work. Days where you are supposed to fast. Days where you are supposed to attend special services. There are so many that you can't keep track. Father Aldrich reminds everyone on Sundays what is coming up. Next week is the feast of Saint whoever, the patron saint of something, and everyone needs to attend Mass and make donations. Always donations. The church always needs money for candles, for roof repairs, for the poor, supposedly, though you never see any of that money going to the actual poor. Who are you? The church also controls marriage, baptism, and burial. You can't get married without the church's blessing. Well, you can, but it won't be legitimate, and your children will be bastards, and bastards have no inheritance rights and limited social status. So you pay for a church wedding, you pay for baptism when your children are born, you pay for burial when someone dies. The church has monetized every major life event. You are paying for access to God, and you have no choice but to pay, because the alternative is damnation. But here is the thing, despite all this, people believe, genuinely believe. The church's power isn't just fear, it is also hope. When your life is this miserable, you need to believe there is something better waiting. Heaven, paradise, a place where you are not cold, not hungry, not in pain, a place where you'll see your dead children again, where you'll rest, where everything finally makes sense. The church promises this, and people cling to that promise, because without it, what is the point? Why suffer through this life if there is nothing after? So you believe, you go to Mass, you pay your tithes, you confess your sins, you take communion, you pray, not because you are sure it works, but because you can't afford to risk that it doesn't. You think about this as you sit by the fire. Tomorrow is not Sunday, thank God. Sundays are exhausting. A full day of church, plus whatever work you can squeeze in after. The church says Sunday is a day of rest, but peasants can't afford to rest. There is too much to do. So you go to Mass, then you work, and you hope God understands that you are not being disrespectful. You are just trying not to starve. The Compline bell finishes ringing. Silence settles over the village. This is the signal for everyone to sleep, or at least try to. Night in medieval times is not like modern night. There is no staying up to watch television or read. Once the sun sets, you are in darkness. Complete darkness. The fire provides some light, but not much. Candles exist, but are expensive. Tallow candles, made from animal fat, smell terrible and barely provide any illumination. Beeswax candles are better, but cost more than your family earns in a week, so you make do with firelight. And when you run out of firelight, you sleep, because what else is there to do? But before bed, there is one more task. Prayer. Your father leads the family in evening prayer. It is short. Just a quick request for God's protection through the night and gratitude for surviving another day. Your father's Latin is terrible. He doesn't really know what he is saying. He is just repeating phrases Father Aldrich taught him. But the intention is there. The fear is there. The desperate hope that maybe, just maybe, God is listening and cares. Everyone mumbles along. You don't know the words either. You just make sounds that approximate them. Your mother crosses herself. Your youngest sister is already asleep. Your brother yawns through the whole thing. This is medieval piety, not passionate or deep. Just rote performance going through the motions because that is what you are supposed to do. Does it mean anything? Who knows? But it is done, and that is what matters. You've fulfilled your obligation. If God is keeping score, hopefully this counts in your favor. Prayer finished, your father declares it is time for bed. Everyone's relieved. Bedtime is the best part of the day because it means stopping. Stopping work, stopping thinking, stopping everything. Just lying down and letting your body shut down. It is not comfortable, it is not restful, but it is better than working. As you lie down on your straw mattress, you think about tomorrow. The corvée labor starts tomorrow. 3 days of working for the Lord instead of for your family. 3 days of falling further behind. 3 days of making this already impossible life even harder. But there is no point thinking about it. It won't change anything. It'll just keep you awake, and you need sleep. You need whatever restoration sleep can provide, which is minimal, but better than nothing. Your body sinks into the straw, every muscle relaxes, every joint stops screaming, or at least screams quieter. You pull the thin blanket over yourself and immediately start shivering, because it is inadequate and the night is cold. You press closer to your brother for warmth. He is already asleep, snoring softly. You close your eyes. The room is dark. The fire has been banked to glowing embers. The smoke lingers. The smell lingers. Everything lingers. You can hear your father's breathing, turning slower, deeper. Your mother shifting position, trying to find comfort on the wooden platform that serves as her bed. Your sister whimpering in her sleep. The rat in the thatch. The wind outside. The dog barking somewhere. The sound of the village settling into sleep. 30 families, all lying down in their terrible houses. All exhausted. All hungry. All hurting. All hoping tomorrow will somehow be better despite centuries of evidence that it won't be. You drift off. Not peacefully. Just the gradual shutting down of consciousness. Your last thought is about the rocks you'll have to move tomorrow. Or maybe it is about the Corvely labour. Or your father's cough. Or the hunger. Or the cold. Or nothing. Maybe your last thought is nothing at all, because you are too tired to think. Maybe you just exist for a moment in that space between wake and sleep, where everything is numb and nothing hurts, and you are not aware enough to be miserable. Sleep comes. Not good. Sleep. Medieval sleep. Interrupted. Uncomfortable. Inadequate sleep. But it comes. And for a few hours, you are not working. You are not aware. You are not suffering. You are just gone. And that is as close to peace as you'll get. Somewhere around midnight you wake up, right on schedule. Your body's internal clock, trained by years of biphasic sleep, pulls you back to consciousness. You don't want to be awake. You are having something approximating rest, but your body doesn't care what you want. It is awake. You are awake. Time to lie in the dark and think about everything wrong with your life. This is the worst part of the night. During the day you are too busy to think. During first sleep, you are too exhausted to think. But during this midnight wake period, your brain turns on and starts processing, and there is a lot to process. The pain in your back, the hunger in your stomach, the cold in your bones, the fear about winter, the resentment about the Corvée labour, the grief about your dead siblings, the worry about your father's cough, the awareness that this is your life, and it will never get better, just worse, slowly, until you die. Medieval nights are when despair happens, when you are alone with your thoughts in the dark, and there is nothing to distract you from the reality of your existence. You are a peasant. You'll always be a peasant. Your children will be peasants. Your grandchildren will be peasants. There is no social mobility, no opportunity for improvement, no hope of change. You are born into suffering, and you die in suffering, and in between you just endure. You try to think about something else. Anything else you think about. Actually, what do medieval peasants think about? You don't have entertainment. You don't have books. You don't have education. Your world is small. The village, the fields, the church. That is it. You've never travelled more than 10 miles from where you were born. You've never seen a city. You've never seen the ocean. You've met maybe 100 people total in your entire life. Your world is tiny, and you'll never leave it. What do you dream about? Probably food. A meal where you eat until you are full. Really full. Not just not starving. Actually satisfied. You dream about that sometimes. A feast like the nobles have. Meat and bread and cheese and fruit and wine. Eating until you are sick. It is a fantasy that will never happen, but it is nice to imagine. Or maybe you dream about rest. A day where you don't work, where you just lie in the sun and do nothing, where your body doesn't hurt, where you can sleep as long as you want and wake up actually refreshed. That is even less likely than the feast, but you dream it anyway. Or maybe you don't dream at all. Maybe you are too practical for dreams. Maybe you just think about tomorrow's tasks, the Corvée labour, the rocks that need moving, the firewood that needs cutting, the endless, grinding list of things that need doing. That is more likely. Medieval peasants don't have the luxury of dreams. They have tasks. Tasks are real. Tasks are urgent. Tasks are all that matter. Your bladder is full again, of course it is. You drank beer at dinner. Beer goes through you. Now you need to pee, which means going outside again, which means subjecting yourself to the cold again. You consider holding it. You try. You can't. Your bladder wins. It always wins. You sit up carefully, trying not to wake anyone. Your brother stirs but doesn't wake. You find your shoes in the dark by feel. The leather is cold and damp from earlier. You put them on anyway. You stand up, joints cracking. You are 24, not 84, but your body doesn't know that. You navigate to the door by memory, open it. The cold rushes in. You step out quickly. and close it behind you. The night is darker than before, cloudier. The moon is hidden. You can't see anything. You walk slowly, carefully toward the bush. The ground is cold and wet. It might be starting to rain, or maybe it is just dew. Either way, you are getting wet. Your shoes are soaking through. Your feet are going numb. You reach the bush, take care of business, and hurry back inside. Inside, you are shivering. Your teeth are chattering. You navigate back to your sleeping spot and lie down. Pull the blanket over yourself. It is not enough. It is never enough. You lie there shivering, waiting for your body temperature to stabilize. It takes forever. Your brother's body heat helps. You press closer, stealing warmth, hoping he doesn't wake up and push you away. Eventually, finally, you stop shivering. Your body reaches some kind of equilibrium with the cold. Not warm, just not actively freezing. Good enough. You close your eyes again. Try to sleep again. Your mind is still racing, but you are tired enough that eventually it doesn't matter. You drift off again. Second sleep, the final stretch until morning. Hopefully uninterrupted, but probably not. Because this is medieval life, nothing is easy. Nothing is comfortable. Nothing is guaranteed except suffering, and the hope that tomorrow won't somehow be worse than today. But tomorrow will be worse. You know it will. The corps v labour, 3 days of it. Working for the Lord while your own fields sit unattended, while your family's winter preparations fall further behind, while the gap between what you need to survive and what you actually have grows wider. This is the feudal system, designed to extract maximum value from peasants while giving them minimum resources to survive. It is working exactly as intended. You are surviving. Barely, just barely enough to keep working, which is all the Lord needs. Peasants who are alive enough to labour but too exhausted and malnourished to rebel. You think about rebellion for a moment. What if everyone just refused? What if the whole village said no? No more corps v labour, no more tithes, no more rents. What if you just kept what you grew and told the Lord to fuck off? It is a nice thought, an impossible thought, because rebellion means punishment. Soldiers, hangings, burnings, entire villages destroyed as examples. You've heard the stories. Everyone's heard the stories. That is why they're told. To remind you what happens when peasants forget their place. So you don't rebel. None of you rebel. You comply. You bow. You scrape. You yes sir. No sir. You hand over your grain and your labour and your dignity. And you survive another day. That is the victory. Not pride. Not freedom. Just survival. One more day of breathing. One more day of existing. One more day of getting to do this all over again. Your thoughts finally slow down. Exhaustion wins. Your brain gives up trying to solve problems that have no solutions. You drift into something like sleep. Not good sleep. Not restorative sleep. Just the absence of consciousness. Just your brain shutting off to preserve what little sanity you have left. Medieval sleep is more like a temporary shutdown than actual rest. Your body performs emergency maintenance. Your brain dumps whatever it can't process. And then morning comes, and you start all over again. In your dreams, if you can call them dreams, you are still working. Still moving rocks, still bent over in the fields. Still trapped in the same endless cycle. Your subconscious can't even give you a break. It just replays your day on loop. This is what happens when work is your entire existence. It colonizes even your sleep. You can't escape it. Not awake. Not asleep. Not ever. Somewhere in the distance a rooster crows. Not yours. You ate yours. But someone's a neighbour's rooster, announcing dawn. It is too early. It is always too early. But morning is coming. The sun is coming. The work is coming. Another day in medieval life. Another 24 hours of survival. Another chance to not die. That is all anyone gets. That is all anyone gets. Not happiness. Not comfort. Not fulfillment. Just the opportunity to keep existing for one more day. And you'll take it. Because the alternative is death. And despite everything, despite the pain and the hunger and the exhaustion and the hopelessness, you still prefer existence to non-existence. Even medieval existence. Even this. The rooster crows again. Other roosters join in. It is a chorus of unwanted wake-up calls. The village is stirring. You can hear doors opening. People coughing. The day is beginning. Your brief escape into sleep is over. Time to get up. Time to face another day. Your eyes open. The room is still dark, but there is a hint of grey light through the shutter gap. Dawn is close. Your father will be up soon. Your mother is probably already up, and then it starts again. The routine. The ritual. The endless repetition of the same tasks, in the same order, for the same reasons. Wake up. P. Eat grey sludge. Work until you break. Eat more grey sludge. Work more. Eat brown sludge. Do household tasks. Sleep, wake up at midnight. P. Sleep, wake up, repeat. This is medieval life, not the Hollywood version with sword fights and romance. The real version. The version where existence is just grinding survival, punctuated by brief moments of less intense suffering. Where entertainment is not working for 20 minutes. Where luxury is having enough food to not feel actively hungry. Where hope is the belief that maybe you won't die today. Where success is defined by waking up the next morning. You lie there for another minute, savouring the last moments before you have to get up. Your body hurts less when you are lying down. Not a lot less. But some. Enough that getting up is always a significant act of will. Every morning you have to decide to continue, to get up, to face the day, to choose survival over surrender. It is not a heroic choice. It is just the default. The path of least resistance. Because giving up would require more energy than going through the motions. So you go through the motions every day, for your entire life. The grey light grows slightly brighter. Your father coughs, stirs. It is starting. You brace yourself. Another day, another 24 hours. Another cycle of the wheel that is crushing you slowly. But you are not dead yet. That counts for something. In medieval times, not being dead yet is basically winning. You sit up. Your back protests. Your joints crack. You are awake. You are alive. You are a medieval peasant. And the day, terrible as it promises to be, is beginning. Whether you are ready or not. You are not ready. You are never ready. But here it comes anyway. You jerk awake. You don't know how long you've been asleep. Maybe a few minutes. Maybe half an hour. The fire is lower. Your father is looking at you with an expression that is not quite disapproval, but isn't approval either. You stand up quickly, pretending you weren't just sleeping, and look for something to do. Your mother hands you a basket of wool that needs carding. Carding wool is tedious and endless, and exactly the kind of task that gets assigned to whoever is available. You sit back down and start carding. The wool is greasy and full of bits of plant matter. You have to pull it through the carding combs repeatedly until it is fluffy and ready to be spun. It is not difficult work, but it is mind. Numbing. Your hands move automatically. Your brain shuts off. This is the medieval version of meditation, doing something so repetitive and boring that you achieve a state of mental emptiness. Around you, the family settles into evening routines. Your youngest sister falls asleep on your mother's lap. Your brother comes back with the water, which he pours into a large container by the door. Your father finishes with the tools and sits by the fire, staring into it with the blank expression of someone who is too tired to think. Nobody talks much. Talking requires energy. Everyone is out of energy. The fire burns lower. Your mother banks it carefully, making sure there is enough to last the night, but not so much that it burns through all the fuel. Fuel is precious. You can't just turn up the thermostat. You have to gather wood, which takes time and energy, and then ration it carefully through the winter. Running out of fuel in January is a death sentence, so you are careful. You are always careful. As the evening wears on, the temperature in the house drops. The fire helps, but it is not enough. The cold seeps in through the gaps in the walls, through the shutter, through the thatched roof. You can see your breath in the air. Your fingers are stiff. You finish the wool carding and set it aside. There is more to do. There is always more to do. But it is getting dark, and working by firelight is difficult, and wastes light you need for more important things. Your father stands up, which is the signal that it is time for bed. Nobody argues. Everyone is desperate to lie down. You are so tired you could sleep standing up. You've done it before. After particularly brutal days during harvest season, you've literally fallen asleep while walking home. Medieval tired is not modern tired. Modern tired is I should have an early night. Medieval tired is I might die if I don't lie down immediately. The sleeping arrangements are the same as always. Everyone lies down in their designated spots. The straw crunches. Something scurries away. You don't care. You are too exhausted to care. You pull the scratchy blanket over yourself, sharing it with your brother, because there aren't enough blankets to go around. It barely covers both of you. You'll fight over it during the night, pulling it back and forth in your sleep, both of you trying to stay warm. Your mother is still up, doing something in the corner. Mothers are always the last to sleep and the first to wake. It is an unspoken rule of medieval life. She is probably preparing something for tomorrow's breakfast, or checking on the food stores, or doing one of the 1,000 invisible tasks that keep the family alive. You hear her moving quietly, and then finally she lies down too. The house is dark now except for the faint glow of the banked fire. The silence is not really silence. You can hear your father's breathing, heavy and laboured. Your brother snoring softly, your sister whimpering in her sleep. The fire crackling occasionally, a rat somewhere in the thatch, the wind outside. These are the sounds of medieval night. You are exhausted, but sleep doesn't come immediately. Your body is too wound up from the day's work. Your muscles are twitching. Your back is throbbing. Your hands are stinging. You lie there in the dark, uncomfortable and cold and hungry, and think about nothing, because thinking requires energy you don't have. Eventually, without realizing it, you drift off. It is not restful sleep. It is the sleep of someone whose body has forcibly shut down to prevent permanent damage. You dream, probably, but you won't remember it. Medieval dreams are not profound. They're just anxiety about crops and taxes and whether you'll survive the winter. Your subconscious is as stressed as your conscious mind. But you don't sleep through the night. Nobody does. Medieval sleep is segmented. This is not a fun historical fact. It is a nightmare. The natural sleep pattern in pre-industrial times is to sleep for about 4 hours, wake up for 1 or 2 hours, then sleep for another 4 hours. This is called biphasic sleep, and it is what happens when you don't have electric lights and you go to bed at sundown because there is nothing else to do. Around midnight, maybe 1 in the morning, you wake up. You are not sure why. Maybe your bladder is full. Maybe you are cold. Maybe your body just decided it is time for the midnight wake period. This is normal. This happens every night. You lie there in the dark, fully awake, listening to the sounds of your family sleeping around you. This wake period is supposedly useful time. Some people pray. Some people have sex, though the idea of having sex in a one-room house with your entire family 3 feet away is not romantic. It is logistical. Some people just lie there and contemplate their existence, which in medieval times mostly means contemplating suffering. You need to pee. Definitely. You can't ignore it. You consider using the chamber pot, but it is on the other side of the room, and you'd have to step over 3 people to get to it. You decide to go outside. Again, you fumble for your shoes in the dark, find them eventually, shove your feet in. The leather is cold and slightly damp. You stand up carefully, trying not to wake anyone, and make your way to the door. Opening the door in the middle of the night is an experience. The cold air hits you like a slap. It is much colder than it was at sunset. The temperature has dropped significantly. Your breath comes out in clouds. The village is completely dark. There are no streetlights, no porch lights, no light from windows because nobody has glass and everyone's shutters are closed. The darkness is absolute. You can't see your hand in front of your face. You step outside and immediately regret every choice that led you to this moment. The ground is freezing. The air is freezing. You are freezing. You walk a few steps from the door, find the bush by memory and touch, and do your business as quickly as possible. The whole experience takes maybe 2 minutes, but it feels like an hour. By the time you are done, your teeth are chattering and your fingers are numb. You hurry back inside, close the door behind you, and stand there shivering. The house is only marginally warmer than outside, but at least there is no wind. You navigate back to your sleeping spot in the dark, lie down, pull the blanket over yourself. Your body is now fully awake and fully cold. It takes another 30 minutes before you warm up enough to drift back to sleep. The second sleep is deeper than the first, but not by much. You are woken several times by various things. Your brother kicking you in his sleep. Your sister crying. Your father coughing. The rat in the thatch making alarming sounds. Each time, you drift back to sleep with the practiced ease of someone who has never experienced an uninterrupted night's rest. When you wake again, it is to the cold and the growing light and the realization that it is morning again. The cycle is starting over. Another day of the same suffering. Another 24 hours of cold, hunger, pain, and work. This is your life. This is everyone's life. This is what it means to exist in the Middle Ages. You lie there for a moment, gathering the energy to sit up. Your body has not recovered from yesterday. Rest is supposed to restore you, but medieval rest doesn't restore. It just prevents you from dying immediately. Your back still hurts. Your hands still sting. Your muscles are stiff and sore. You are still tired despite sleeping for roughly 8 hours in total. You are always tired. Tired is your default state. Your father coughs. Your mother is already stirring the fire. Your brother groans. The day is beginning whether you are ready or not. You are not ready. You'll never be ready. But that doesn't matter. You sit up. You put on your shoes. You prepare to do it all again. Because this is medieval life. Not the romanticized version with knights and castles. The real version, the brutal version. The version where every single day is a fight for survival, and most people lose. You work until your body breaks. You eat barely enough to keep going. You sleep in cold, filthy conditions. You watch family members die from diseases that could be cured with modern medicine. You have no control over your life. No prospects for improvement. No hope that tomorrow will be different from today. And yet, somehow, you keep going. Not because you are strong or brave, but because the alternative is death, and humans will do almost anything to avoid death. So you wake up, you work, you eat your terrible food, you sleep your terrible sleep, and you wake up and do it again. Day after day, week after year, year after year, until you are too old or too sick or too injured to work anymore. And then you die. Probably in the same house where you were born, surrounded by the same suffering you've known your entire life. This is what 24 hours in the Middle Ages actually looks like. Not a Renaissance fair, not a fantasy adventure, just relentless, grinding, exhausting survival. And the worst part, tomorrow will be exactly the same, and the day after that, and the day after that, for the rest of your short, brutal medieval life. Welcome to 1320. Hope you enjoyed the tour. Now, get back to work. Those fields won't plough themselves.